that you can do. And there's a scaling system where you figure out what's the one thing that literally, I'm getting chills as I'm saying this, you guys can see this happening, that lights you on fire. It's your 100%. If you could do it tomorrow, there's no questions to ask. That would be the one thing that you would do. That would be what you would fixate on for at least the next 90 days. Because everything else is just a maybe, should, could, would, but not a full hell yes. And so there's different tools you can utilize to get there, but we're skipping ahead a little bit. So what I'm speaking to with your creating your life design, becoming the co-creator of your life, and learning how to think rather than what to think. And so what am I talking about? And I asked this before you had left the room. You know, from when you were little kids, we're always taught what to do, what not to do, what's right, what's wrong, but we're never taught the how of it. Well, how do you co-create your life if all you've done is just followed what somebody else said? How do you know who you really are if you've never reflected within and really tuned into trusting yourself based on an inner knowing? So that's what this speaks to. And I'll speak a little bit more about it as we go. I want to talk about the biggest thing, and all of us actually brought it up today, and what impacts humanity is the thing that I call chaotic thought. Anybody know what I'm talking about? The crazy case in your head that tells you you can't do anything, and then blah, 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 and you're like, oh, I have all these great ideas, and there's so many shiny objects, and I have all these things that I'm going to do in one day. Or you're thinking of something really great, then all of a sudden something in your head pops up and says, no, but you can't have that because this, and this. So all of that, that's your chaotic thought processing. And it is a human problem, it's a condition. We always have these tapes running. I remember that's what I learned when I was in my early 20s when I first heard about self-development. I didn't know what that was. I was led to some sort of website with some guy, and I started reading about codependence, and it just broke me open. I was 22 years old, lost, confused, never got any sort of direction from my parental system. It was just a lot of, you're not good enough, you're never going to end up anywhere, you're not going to do anything, and I just was sick and tired of it. And I was guided because I was in so much pain to try to find myself. And so as I started to listen to and read the wording on it, I started realizing, oh, there is a better way. That this inner knowing that's been guiding me since I was little, where it's like something feels off here. Has anybody else in this room ever had the moment of when things are not working out or things seem a little bit off or negative, like we can feel it. There's like an inner knowing that something's, like you were saying, it's out of alignment. And we've always had that gift within us from the beginning of time. It's been inherent in you. And those of you that do have kids, and I've had a lot of experience with the clients that have kids, and they've told me stories, they actually are a lot smarter than us because they don't have layers of crap laid on top of them, years and years of conditioning. They're actually much more connected and probably know a little bit more than you and could teach you a lot. So get ready, Mom. So from there, I'm going to read this. And this, when I first read it, it was a little bit like, what is he talking about? So the desire to become more and more what one is, meaning who you truly are, becoming everything that one is capable of becoming. So it's like a riddle, right? When you read it, you're like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. And I had to reread it a couple times, and it's meant to be written that way to really get you to think outside of the box. So it's not just, hey, this is what this is, and now you're going to take it as fact. What do you see? What do you perceive? How are you presented with this? So for me, it's the desire of becoming more of who I truly am without the external noise. And then that allowing me to become everything that I'm capable of becoming from that place of my internal self, my personal power that is me. So that's what that means to me and how I read it, and that's the teachings that he was teaching too. And then, why self-development does not work. Has anybody ever heard this? You're like, what are you talking about? We're here at your conference or at your event. So, why it doesn't work. How many self-help books, how many different coaches and programs and all the things are there? And there's so many people that aren't millionaires. There's so many people that don't have the success that they so desire. So that's what this speaks to. If you could sit for a moment and just really think about how much we all have available to us within the self-help and self-development realm, and how few people are actually living it and applying it and creating lives of their dreams. Would we agree that that's pretty much the case? And that was my case for a really long time. I was really good at learning all the things and applying none of them, because I got really good at feeling better in myself not creating anything better outside of myself. So I could continue to stay at the corporate job that made me miserable and sucked the life out of me for years and years. And I would fill myself up every night, and I'd walk in there with all this energy, and 20 minutes into it, somebody would come and just start berating me about some nonsense, and I would just be like, oh. I'd go home and I'd have that glass of wine. Nothing wrong with the wine. But it was definitely taking a toll on me, and I wasn't really clear on, okay, I've been doing this work for so long, what's really going on here? Well, I hadn't learned that the trainings and all the self-help books don't actually address 2 key problems. And so what are these key problems? The one thing that we were talking about when we first started is our thinking. So what are viruses? Has anybody ever heard of negative thoughts as viruses? Has anybody heard that spoken? Raise a hand if you consider yourself someone who wants a better life. So we'll just get that straight away.
Everybody wants a better life.
Yeah, we all want. That's why we're here. If you're in this room and there's obviously something that called you here. So if we were to look at and see, well, what's actually keeping us from having the life that we want? And you start looking at, well, I know all these things, I have all these desires, but why am I not actually receiving the life that I so desire? And so there's our thinking patterns, the negative thought viruses that are in our mindset. And it's also chaotic thinking. If each of you would just sit for a second and think about what is it that you want to create for yourself. Just right now, think of one thing that you would love to have. And for how long can you hold that thought before the nonsense starts creeping in and telling you why you can't have it, it's not going to work, and that you're never going to do it, blah, 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 blah. How quickly is that?
Oh, immediate clock.
Right, exactly. So that's the chaotic thinking, the processes of our brains activating in us these fear-based belief systems that keep us literally stuck, trapped, and frozen in not taking the action. And it may not be even so severe that you don't even realize that it's happening. You're just like, oh, it's just a thought. This is how I've always thought. Or I sometimes get clients that say, well, this is just who I am. Is it ultimately true that that's who you are, or is it just what you would accept it to be for yourself? What's really available for you? So everybody has access, but everybody also has these viruses. So you have these great books, you have all of these talks, but hi, how are you? Welcome. We're a little bit, we started a little bit, we're talking about viruses. What she's talking about. Yeah. Okay, so here's how I look at it. So imagine your beautiful brain is this amazing CPU of a computer. So capable. You put some amazing formulas in there, some software, and it just gets after it. Like your brain is really that powerful. We are a processing unit. And so right now, the processing unit that was when you were a baby and you were born was so beautiful and impeccable. It was that beautiful Mac that you just got out and you're like, just barely pulling it out of the box and won't let anything touch it. It's so pristine and it's perfect and it works amazing. And then 20 years later, there's been quite a bit of nonsense that's happened and stories that we've acquired in belief systems. And this happened to me, so I'm making it mean I'm not good enough. She's here. Yay. I get so excited for my friends. Hi, Love, come in.
Yeah.
Come in.
It's watching the live.
Oh, yay! I'm so glad. Hi, everybody that's on Facebook, by the way.
It just says it on my Facebook.
Yeah, come on in. Hi, Stacey. Have a seat. Go get some snacks. I'm talking about viruses, like how our brains work and chaotic thinking. And so what this speaks to is, so now you have this beautiful hard drive, this CPU that has all of these viruses. And you pick up this beautiful book and it's teaching you what's possible for you. And you're like, yes, and I'm going to go to this conference and I'm there and I'm jumping up and down and I feel so great. And then I go home and what happens? You go back to the same environments, you go back to the same habits, you go back to the same stinking thinking that sucks you right back into that space of creating the same patterns, the same habits over and over again. And so, would we all agree we all have some antivirus needs in this room? I know that I do. Every day I wake up, you have to choose gratitude. You have to choose what we're going to lean into. So the second problem, you have all of these viruses and you're trying to input a beautiful new piece of software on there. And what do you think is going to happen? Have you ever tried to install software on a computer that has a virus on it? Crashes? Crash and burn? Yeah. And so that's what we're trying to do with all of these amazing new opportunities for us to learn and grow through self-development or anything in the field. And what happens is your computer crashes, or it gets too hard and you give up, or the negative thoughts start to come in. So what we're speaking to for problem number 2 is the lack of structured thought. So the lack of structured thought means You have your CPU that right now has all of these viruses on it. Your structured thought would be what is going to clean up, defragment, and override the old program so that you can actually utilize and harness the power of the new software that you are inputting, of these amazing new tools and tips that you're here to use. So if anybody in the room, what's the biggest challenge that you've seen with self-development? With making real change possible for yourself?
Consistency.
Consistency, okay. Anyone else?
Fear of being judged.
So if you are looking to be positive, people won't like you because they're misery loves company kind of thing, is that what you mean?
Well, some people, instead of trying to come where you are, they try to pull you down to where they are.
Right.
Kind of like, have you fit in rather than stand out.
Right, because what happens when we shine our light is others are reminded of how they dim their own. And so, yes, in my experience, there have been times in my life and that I've seen in the field that sometimes we outgrow certain relationships and friendships and situations like our work. I couldn't bear it another day in my corporate job. I just felt so ill going in there every day. And I decided I had to do something about it. And through our discomfort is when we finally take action. But when you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, I just lost my train of thought. Has that ever happened to everyone? Yeah. So when you're taking action to step into a more authentic version of yourself, removing the stories, removing the viruses, removing all of the elements that don't really align with who you really are. Any decision that you may have made up until that point from a place of inauthenticity may have to shift, and that's who you're speaking to. If you are at a job and you've said yes when it's been a no over and over again, and you start saying no, what do you think is going to happen? If you're in a relationship and there's a codependent, even if like with a partner that is your coworker, like let's say, I know that we were talking about that if you and your partner for the longest time, you've been the nice one, and now all of a sudden you're like, no, I really need to rise up and speak my truth, and that creates a rift. And it's not to say that our interactions have to completely stop, it's sometimes they are required to shift, and it's in that discomfort of confronting that we oftentimes back off and give up on ourselves and don't do the work that's required within the self-development world. And so what the lack of structured thought speaks to is if you had something in place that would help you see the negative thought, recognize it for just being that without attaching the meaning of it meaning anything about you or meaning so much that you are so frozen and paralyzed that you can't speak to what you need to do or have that conversation. Because how many times have you actually had the courage to speak your truth, address the conversation, and then actually felt really good about it after? I mean, it doesn't always happen, but in the times where I felt most terrified, that they're doing this, by the way, guys. I started a year ago, the first time, and I still sweat. So mentally, I have overridden the viruses, but I still literally sweat because my physiological response is, holy crap, nobody's gonna care. Why am I even doing this? They're gonna think I'm crazy. Yeah, I'm getting the chills telling you that. So being really raw and authentic is powerful because I decided at one point in my business that it wasn't about me, and regardless of the sweating and the weirdness, I was going to show up and do it anyway. And so I've implemented a structured thought processing system where I hear the thought, I recognize how crazy it is, and I'm like, this isn't about that. If it's not a really serving thought, I get to choose to override it. I get to go control alt delete it, and then move into the next. And keep me on my time because I know that sometimes I just lost my train of thought earlier. Good? Okay. So, let's see, I'm gonna have my number, so give me 1 second. Okay. We don't know what we don't know. Has anybody ever heard this? And there's a lot of the times, oh, I already know that. If you know it intellectually, that's one thing. But would we all agree that a lot of us know a lot of things up here, but aren't living it, so we don't actually know it, meaning we're not applying it and getting the actual benefit of living it. Is anybody here? I don't know if I know that. I did that for a long time. I still do it, and a lot of times I catch myself. Oh, no, I already know that. I want to listen to it. has there ever been a podcast that I wanted to listen to and something and you said, well, you already know that. And then I'm like, well, I still want to listen to it. And then I listen to it and I get a truth bomb that totally shifts me in that moment. And I recognize, oh, that was that little stinker trying to get me not to create the shift that I wanted for myself. And so, you know, the thoughts in our minds, sometimes they just, I call it the ego. I try not to use that word too much, but that's essentially how I look at it, is that processing unit that's always scared because it's used to the experiences that you've lived up until now. It's been taught that it's not safe to do this, or this happened, so don't do that. And so it's just trying to keep you safe, and I've just learned to not make any of that experience wrong and just simply say, I still get to choose to see things differently, I still get to choose differently, and start choosing to take myself in a different direction. So, what we don't know is everything that is stored in your brain that you're not applying right now. And so from there, if you were to sit and think right now of the things that you know that you really value and love, and then consider what are some of the chaotic thoughts. So think of the one thing that if you could do it right now, money wasn't an issue, you just really would want to go full in your life and business, what would that be? Just think of that thought for a second. And then notice the crazy talk that starts, because it always does. And then what are you present to? What's the biggest thing that comes up for everybody in the room? What's the one chaotic thought that's coming up telling you you can't do it, or I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I just want us to feel that we're at home and we're not alone in this, because it happens to all of us.
Who's gonna show up? Who's gonna care?
Beautiful. I love that. Cindy,
Start
else?
over.
That's a good one. Yeah. It's like, now where do I start? Starting from the beginning and working your way up is kind of what you're thinking, yeah? Anybody else? And how are you, Stacey? I know we kind of started before you got in here.
Oh, yeah, I'm very good. This is good.
Oh, I love you. You're so sweet. If there's anything that I'll share with you after.
I think a chaotic thought for me is, oh, that's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's, oh, stop it. Like that just kind of seeps in.
So it's are we fully showing up in our largeness, or are we playing small? And so one of the things that I've been really feeling into is I don't want to live a practical life. I have no desire for practical, for normal, for basic. I want to be a stand for miraculous, prosperous, completely breaking every rule imaginable. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. But I'm going to, in my conviction, feel into that every moment. I'm going to take us through an exercise today about getting us into feeling into what it would be like to have our desires already met. And I just bring that into my body every single day, as often as possible, because at the end of the day, I can always go back to the stories. I can always go back to the fear perceptions. I can always do all of the not enoughness. And for now, I decided I took all of that and I left it in the corner at the side of the room. And I said, we can go back to that later if we so choose, but for right now, we're just gonna go all in and see what happens. How would that feel? If we could just leave it, you can always go back to it. You don't have to make it wrong. But for right now, just give yourself permission to feel into the possibility and get it there. And so, what is chaotic thinking? So they're negative thought patterns, and I know we spoke to this a little bit. Negative thought patterns that when unchecked, what do? They distract us and they lead us to fail in attaining our success. They spin you out into this direction rather than up into this one. So does anybody here right now have anything that they have in place that they use to combat their negative thought processes? Yeah.
I came up with like an every damn day list.
Ooh.
So it's like if I accomplish these like 5 things in my day that I feel successful, whether it's like actually getting through my entire to-do list, that doesn't really matter, but if I get these things done, I'm good.
Amazing. So that's kind of what I call my non-negotiables. Here are my 5 things I do every day that really set me into a space that gets me activated. So whether it's journaling or I meditate or really get mindful, and then I go to the gym. I know it sounds like I'm doing absolutely nothing at this point, and that's one of my stories too. Am I doing enough? Does anybody have that? I'm not doing enough.
Yep.
I've recently heard this a lot in my sessions is, well, we're doing really well and we've had amazing outcomes in our presentations and the clients are happy, but I'm just not working hard enough. Who said you have to work hard in order to deserve a really good outcome? What if working harder is a different paradigm from what we believed was hard before? Hard before was a lot of pain, a lot of going against the grain, a lot of not listening to your inner guidance. What if there was a new way of thinking that made everything available to you, that you got to trust yourself, and then you make that one phone call and get that big contract? What if that's available right now? Does anybody know that is available? There's people right now in this world that are so lucky by design that they don't have to do the 20 million menial tasks to get the same result that a lot of us believe that we do, and they are massively successful because they have shifted their awareness into that paradigm.
Is there a blueprint?
Yes, I see you. Yes, and so we all have that blueprint. Such a beautiful word to use, thank you. And we can activate our own inner knowing, our blueprint, so to speak, that we recode and we reprogram all of these old belief systems and shift into a new understanding of what's available to us. A year ago today, if you would have told me that I'd be traveling the world and have amazing clients that I'm literally transforming their lives and I'm putting on events, I would be like, okay, I don't know how it's going to happen, you're crazy. But I knew an inherent thing in me was the how was going to take care of itself. I just knew that I was willing to show up and do my part. Is anybody in this room willing to show up and say yes to themselves? Just even in this room. We don't have to tell anybody you did. Nobody needs to know. Are you a yes to you?
Yes.
Fully. And if you're not, then it's okay. But just say, I'm a little scared right now. This is a lot. I don't know that I want to do this. And that's okay, because for a long time I didn't want to. But there's a part of you that's a yes to you because you're here. You wouldn't be in this room.
I'm like sitting right on top of the fence, and I just want to fall over, but there's like, I'm hanging on to that fence, and like what I know, just because of what's unknown, I guess.
Scary.
Yeah.
Very.
I had a dream of being on a pirate ship, and the water was dark, and I was away from the shore, but I had to get, like, I wanted to get back to the shore, but I was so afraid of jumping in the water, but I knew that that boat was going to take me to adventure. I just, yeah, so I'm just on, I want to be on the other side of the fence, and there's a lot of unknowns, and what does that look like?
What do you want it to look like?
And with responsibilities as an adult, as a mom, what does that look like, right? So there's the stay safe mantra that runs in my head, but I think I need to question and put that in a different paradigm of, I think my brain is tricking me, and where I'm at is not safe. Like, I need to make these changes in order to give my son his best future.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Have a seat. You can watch the live replay after. Okay. This is Kathy. So, how many people think that there's probably a little chaotic thought going on right now? Whatever, how are you feeling right now? We were just talking about negative thought viruses and how our brains create negative processes for us that make us question ourselves or feel kind of crazy and not giving us the opportunity to actually fulfill our desires.
How do I feel? I think Zhanna's gonna hate me because I'm already.
So, and I'm sad that that has my name in it because I would never hate you. But what we were speaking to is oftentimes in life, when you want something, or even just throughout the day just existing, we have stories that play in our heads. They're like these negative stories that play out, but they don't have to mean anything. Like, in truth, do I actually hate you? No, I don't hate you at all. That would never enter my mind. I was just a little sad that you weren't here, but here you are. Okay. So just a good example of, in one person's mind, when we feel guilty, we have a thought that feels really real, that felt really real to you, right? You felt bad and all the weird, uncomfortable feelings, and I'm over here like, I'm actually sad she's not here, I'm not mad. And no one's judging. So it just goes to show, thank you for demonstrating that, but there's a lot of times where when we have experiences in our lives, we create the pain for ourselves rather than actually just breathing through it and moving past manifest it, and creating a vision that makes us so courageous that we will jump off that fence and just know it's going to figure itself out somehow. Yeah, if you want to help yourself, there's some refreshments too. So I want to read this. Yeah,
Going back to that example of, like, just that that's a perfect example, like we're feeling guilty, blah, blah. How do you, even though you know here that like that's your story, that's my story, blah, blah, like all that stuff, how do you, because I can hold on to that emotion for, it takes me a long time to
So that could be a whole nother workshop.
Okay.
But my tip for that would be is to learn forgiveness, to forgive yourself. The moment that you judge yourself, I'm willing to forgive myself for thinking that thought. I'm willing to forgive myself for judging myself for thinking that thought. That in itself is my mantra to take me out, and it's Gabby Bernstein actually taught me that, and so did one of my other coaches, Amanda Francis, who if you follow me, you know who she is. But those are my favorite go-tos because in the moment I'm realizing I'm only human, and there's actually no reason for me to perpetuate this guilt, and by me releasing the guilt I can free myself and move forward. So that would be one way of like creating structured thinking. But the other thing is that I'm teaching here today is to teach you that you have the ability to create a structured thinking process for yourself that will help you break free of becoming caught in that spiral. So there's different ways to do it, and we can speak to that after. I'm just taking pictures of me. It's making me feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to pose. Thank you. So, why getting clear is so important? So why would anybody in this room, would you think it's really important to know what you want and to get really clear on it? Because how are we going to hit the goal if we don't know where we're going, correct? Yeah, so right now if you were to sit and really get clear, do you think you know what you actually want? Like really?
No.
I realized I wanted something totally different when I was in California this past weekend. I wanted to live a nomadic life and travel the world and stay in Airbnbs, and that would make me so happy. I didn't know that until I was in the Airbnb and I was journaling on it, and I was like, this is what I want. Holy crap, who am I to have that? Who am I to ask for that kind of freedom? Who am I to live that life of that kind of a life? Well, I want it. So who says I can't have it? And it's in honoring our heart desires. It's in really giving ourselves permission to, and not to say that any of you need to go have that dream. That's my dream. I'm not doing that. But it's really just learning to look within and get really honest with yourselves, and then practicing tuning into that and saying yes to you more often. And being of conscious forgiveness is really big, and so is gratitude. Those are my things that I start my day with, and I'll give to everybody. I start my day with my gratitude list. What is it that I really want? And then what is it that I am proud of myself for? Who in this room has a hard time celebrating themselves? Anybody? Yeah, it's a thing. Most people can't like, yeah, you're like, I don't care. I love myself. Yes! Give me 5.
I know you guys to celebrate.
Are we good on
Every
time?
day is 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So when to speak to that, if you say, if you were to pick one thing that you're proud of yourself right now, just kind of say it to yourself. See how that feels. I'm proud of myself for. I'm proud of myself for showing up today. Sweaty mess and all. Yeah. And I'm sure there's stories that start playing that tell you why that's crazy. Yeah. So if you start to apply those 3, those are part of my non-negotiables in the morning, my gratitude, my desire, and I'm proud of myself, you'll start to see shifts in yourself go throughout the days. You're starting, every morning when you wake up, your mind is much more susceptible. You're still in like a subconscious programming state. So if you roll out of bed and go straight into work, and then the rest of the day is kind of just go, 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 and it's chaos, well, you have set a marker for yourself in that space the moment that you woke up. So if you start your day with the gratitude, if you start your day with the structured, no, I'm going to choose how this day goes, the rest of your day will end up being so. And as I'm sharing this with you, I'm having an aha moment of actually that is how I live my life every day now. Whereas in the past, I got, in corporate America especially, it was harder because there's a lot more moving pieces and dealing with other people's personalities, and you're really, I have a lot of compassion for anybody that deals with a lot of stress at work. And I remember there was days where I just went for it and I didn't really get mindful, and the day would take me out and I get get sucked into people's stuff, and then I'd feel like a mess, and it would just be a whole nightmare spinning me out. And then the days that I was really intentional with it, and I chose to start my day with gratitude and joy, the rest of my day was like, I was in the right place at the right time, everything's working out for me, and everything's amazing. So the structured thought piece is giving yourself the tools and taking action on them every day. And how I do that is if you give yourself more than 5 seconds, anybody ever heard of the 5-second rule?
Yes.
If you give your mind more than 5 seconds, it will trail you off and you will not do the thing that you first instinctively desire to do. So that's another tool that I'll ask. Apply the 5-second rule anytime that anything comes up for you that you desire to do, just go do it then and there. Who cares if you screw it up? It's an amazing opportunity to learn a lesson, and it needed to happen, and it will bring you one step closer to your goals. That would be another takeaway for you. I know we only have 8 minutes, so I'm moving quickly. And so, are you interested in, and this is a question, do you feel that you are living your life in alignment with what you want, or just knowing what you want? Are you actually taking active, engaged action every day to take yourself one step closer to your goals?
Half and half.
Half and half. Okay, fair. Yeah. So this just speaks to, do you just know it, or are you actually living it and applying it? And we're imperfectly perfect humans, and there are days where I get spun out, especially right before the time of the month if I'm living here, and I get crazy, and there are times where I too forget to apply, and then I bring it back. So what speaks to you, Juliet, is just because it happened, you have an instant, every here and now moment to forgive yourself and bring yourself back. There's no need to spin out for 3 hours, 7 hours, 10 days. In here and now moment, you have the ability to tune in and say, I'm willing to release that. Let's start over. Every moment, right now. Now. That's all there is now. Start now. That thing didn't even happen. Just start right now. So just take yourself through it. And sometimes you have to be that ridiculous to stop the pattern of thought and then take yourself through it. So we are very short on time. I wanted to make sure that we meditated before we started the next session. And why that was important to me is part of the structured thinking that's important is we learn this thing called a non-dual state of mind, or no mind. If we already tried it, I had all of you tune into a positive thought, something that you enjoy, or even try not to think any thought and see how quickly the thought enters the craziness. How many seconds? 2 seconds? 3 seconds?
0.1 million.
A million of a second.
Because that happened at the same time.
Yeah.
And mine like happens first. It's like I don't even know what the thought is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I teach is attaining that non-dual state through meditation, which I really love, and I'm going to take us through meditation real quick. Some of you already know me, and we're going to do that. And then after the meditation, I want to see if there's a little bit of a marked, even if it's a slight marked difference. And has everybody here meditated or feel comfortable? Just to see the difference in the way that, so when we meditate, our brain waves shift in the way that we are present to ourselves, and it gives you a moment to drop in. So let's go ahead and do that. Anybody, what I would like us to do is, for each and every one of you, the intention that you came with here today, even if you don't know why you came here today, there's a part of you that wanted something, has a desire for something, for clarity, for more peace in your life, for bring me all the people that need to bring me success in my business so I can do all the things and be a massive success in my skincare line. Whatever it is, what is in your heart that you would want to walk away from today, feeling like, yeah, I got what I needed. Because I know that everybody always gets what they need, even if I'm sweaty and rambly. And she's still going, so she's for sure going to give you what you need. So, okay, and I'm going to play a song that I love in the background here that I use for all my meditations. Just everybody just get really mindful, present, close your eyes, take a deep breath in. On the exhale, release. Just get really present to your body, the weight of your body in the chair and the seat. Let go completely. All of us have had, it's hump day. We've all had a couple days of life, of work, of our minds coming in and trying to infiltrate us. If things come through, that's fine. Just let them float across your brain. Just let them go. Take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, just let them go. Really letting yourself be present with us. Letting yourself see yourself in that vision, that dream, that desire that you want it more than anything in the world. See it happening. Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? Breathe into that. Be present where you are. As you exhale, release. Holding vision. Feeling into the feeling of what would it feel like to already have all of it, regardless of the stories, regardless of the fears. Who are you? What do you stand for? How do you show up every day for yourself, for your loved ones? What are you creating in the world each and every day? And how do you feel being that person? How do you feel looking back and saying, wow, I did it. It was better than I could have ever imagined. Take a deep breath into that. And you exhale, release, and like you just be with that for a moment. If you feel any tension in your body, scan your body now, and put your hand on that part of your body. And just breathe in. And on the exhale, release. And I'd like to take us through a cleansing. Like you see yourself standing. You can be laying down on a beach, wherever feels better to you. And there's this beautiful white light, this energy that enters your feet and travels up to your hips. Where it crosses, there's these two beautiful beams. They start crisscrossing at each energy meridian, each chakra, all the way up into your crowns, blossoming into a beautiful lotus, connecting you from the earth and up into the ether, and then sending you so much love, so much light, everything that you've ever wanted, just receiving it fully now, and letting that energy flow down your face and your neck and your shoulders, down your arms, every cell activated, everything happy and joyful and excited for what's possible and available for you right now. And the energy expands into your heart. See it like this beautiful green emerald glow extending out past you, covering the entire world, and then back into your heart, fully connected, fully dropped in, connected above and so below. And with each internal shift, with each yes to yourself, you can say, yes, I love you. Yes, I hear you. Yes, I want this for us. Your life shifts with you. Everything becomes available to you. One yes at a time. One choice at a time. Take a deep breath in. And we exhale, release. And start to become a little bit more present to your physical body now. Feeling yourself in the chair. Whenever you're ready, you've come back to this realm. Welcome you to open your eyes. Know that it is done. Thank you for allowing me to do that with all of you. I always love a big group because there's so much power in the energy that we collectively bring forth. And I know for me, if you were to just think of that thought right now, maybe a few more seconds than it was before the meditation. There's a stillness. And then the crazy starts. But that's okay. So there's just, what the meditation speaks to is there's a tool set of really tuning into holding our intention, holding our vision, and really giving yourself permission to, even though we hear it, to release it and let it pass. And then come into a space of, I get to choose. I am the creator of my life. I am the one that thinks the thought doesn't think me. So, You are far powerful. You are far powerful. After I meditate, guys, it's like it takes me a minute. It's slow. So thank you so much for that. I know we got a little bit behind. You have all of the handouts. I did offer the course that I teach on structured thinking that will take us through a 4-week full-on intensive to help you learn getting into that non-dual state and starting to really restructure the thought. I don't like using the word control thought because when we control thoughts, it feels restrictive. It's more so cleaning the hard drive and bringing you back into the space of empowered thought, structured CPU that really gets you amazing results quickly. So thank you so much. I love you all. Yay!